The Borg have figured out a way to enter Fluidic Space, the realm of the Undine, that they called Species 8472. After a perilous mission into a cube ship, we learned that they were on the cusp of learning how to overcome the Undine's immunity to assimilation. We succeeded in preventing this data from spreading to the greater collective, but it's only a matter of time before they try again. While we were there, we snatched intel on how the Borg were getting into the home dimension of 8472. It was speculated that Starfleet and the psychic race of tripods had reached a sort of understanding, but their recent hostilities have not been reserved to just the Borg. As the Undine are very territorial and seemingly the only sentient species in their realm, they have the opinion that the majority of species of our realm share the Borg's hostile intent. But there must be much more going on than we can see. Captain Nicholas Martin contacts us with orders to rendezvous with an expedition force into the Cuda system, headed by the USS Voyager. The purpose of this mission is to create our own entry into Fluidic Space and work things out, or at least attempt to. With our mission assigned, we set a course for the fringes of the Beta Quadrant and set sail. The Cuda system has one outstanding feature, and that is the twisted rings that stretch between the gas giants Cuda 2 and 3. A gravitational anomaly, possibly a black hole, passed through the system and disrupted the planet's orbits, causing their intricate ring system to distort between the two celestial bodies. Surely a sight to see. We reached the system and joined the task force of Admiral Tuvok.
Welcome to the Cuda system. I am Admiral Tuvok of the USS Voyager. I will provide tactical assistance on this mission.
It's a privilege, Admiral. I've watched all of the I've studied all of the exploits of the USS Voyager at Starfleet Academy, which is a temporal agent from the year 2270. Is a blatant lie, but he doesn't need to know that.
Thank you. Your meteoric rise through the ranks is well known to me as well. Sensors indicate the division between normal and fluidic space is thinner here, making crossing much easier. The Undine have used this location in the past. We will use it now. The majority of the fleet will remain here to protect this area. Our team will enter fluidic space, locate, and then survey the Borg presence there. If possible, we will destroy it. When you are ready, Voyager will open the singularity.
The task force assembled is one of the largest we've seen, and yet comprised of a mixture of Starfleet vessels, such as the USS Venture, the model for a design based off of the older Galaxy class, the Stardancer, the Finder, and the notable USS Voyager. Many more ships lie in wait to prevent our incursion from backfiring on us, but alongside the majority of Starfleet ships, we have the Romulan Republic vessel, the Ariel, named after a Romulan desert. The Republic cannot spare too many ships, the small force that it is, so the gesture from our allies is appreciated. But perhaps most surprising is the presence of the Klingons. Evidently negotiations were made with the current enemies of the Federation to put aside the conflict in favour of dealing with the Undine and Borg. Considering the history the Klingons have had with Species 8472, it's likely that they want answers as well. The result is a not insubstantial number of Klingon vessels led by the IKS Klinsai, who are cautiously following Admiral Tuvok's lead. As we form up with our task group, we can see the trailing rings of the two planets contorted by gravity. The Admiral said that the Undine have used this area to cross over before, and I wonder if the anomaly that shook this system's balance has resulted in some phenomena that makes dimensional travel easier here, or whether dimensional travel caused this to occur in some unrecorded time. Once in place, we signal the Admiral and he opens the singularity. 5 Starfleet ships, 1 Klingon and 1 Romulan vessel all move to the tear in our realm, and we begin our mission.
We have made a successful transition into fluidic space. Unlike our own, this dimension is filled with an organic fluid. The main indigenous life form is species 8472. Sensors are detecting a Borg signature nearby. Your vessel will take the lead in the investigation. We will follow.
So the Armiger is to take point. Very well. Our first course is to investigate the Borg signal we've picked up. Hopefully it will lead us to answers. As the Romulan vessel swoops overhead, almost hitting us, Temet points out that a strange substance that serves as this realm's, well, not space, has its own ebb and flow of currents, akin to a cosmic wind or an ocean. Navigating will pose problems, as we can see by the light trails left from our nacelles and impulse engines. It might be prudent not to maintain a close formation then. Most starships are airtight, well, all the good ones anyway, but navigating a fluidic environment is going to require some adaptation. Starships are designed to operate in a vacuum, though smaller ones such as the Intrepid-class USS Voyager and Constitution ships like the 2260s Enterprise could operate in an atmosphere. Underwater, however, is often a no-go for any starship, with only refitted shuttles operable in a marine environment, as the pressure created from the weight of the water is pretty bad for a ship designed to operate in a zero-atmosphere environment. However, fluidic space has several oddities that make it different from an ocean and is poorly understood by most species. Shame we can't stay to poke around some more. This realm consists entirely of a biomatter, but there seems to be no gravitational force, as there would be on a planet's surface, therefore no depth pressure. Also, we've got no idea how dense the material is, and navigational deflectors are designed to push matter ahead of a vessel out of the way. And finally, the structural integrity fields of a ship can compensate for a wide variety of effects, preventing it from being torn apart. Amid the green and amber hues of this utterly alien environment, we catch sight of a rather geometric black metal pillar hanging in the murk like some sort of buoy. Giving it a scan, we learn that it's a form of interplexing beacon designed to amplify Borg subspace comms. This correlates with Voyager's first trip into fluidic space, when the drone 7 of 9 mentions that her connection to the Borg collective has been weakened by entering this other realm. Temet suggests that if we follow the trail of beacons for long enough, like telephone poles, they'll eventually lead to an installation. So we scan around to discover another, gather the party and set off. The third beacon we encounters picked up a transmission from within fluidic space, and it seems to be of Starfleet origin. We set a course for the signal, and Captain Rebecca Simmons of the USS Venture contacts us with a proposal.
We've been examining the data on the interplexing beacons, and we believe we may have discovered a vulnerability in the Borg subspace carrier wave technology. If it's acceptable to you, I would like the Venture to remain here and run some tests while you investigate the signal. We may not get another opportunity.
I have no problem with that if the Admiral doesn't. Our path seemed secure enough, so we'll set a course for the source of our mysterious signal. Our journey ends at a large globule-like mass, and the Admiral contacts us as we stop and tread water.
This landmass is unique in fluidic space. It is not a planet by Starfleet definitions. If I had to categorize it, I would say it is similar to the coral reefs found in Earth's oceans. The ground itself is a framework for living creatures.
So it's alive? Then again, we're surrounded by biomatter, so is this gel alive? I don't want to think about that.
Fascinating. We are detecting a number of ships in the area. Starfleet, Klingon Defense Force, Romulan Republic, even Ferengi and Cardassian. Most species from the Alpha and Beta quadrants appear to be represented.
That is indeed strange. You'd think we'd know of a massive undertaking to chart fluidic space. Sure enough, scattered hulks of derelict starships litter the fluid around us, and some bear the unmistakable silhouette of Starfleet design. Moving closer to one that still seems to have a semblance of power, marked by the green trail of plasma, we scan the Klingon vessel to learn more. Temet remarks that they seem identical to known designs, but the metallurgical readings are off, so we run a more specific scan on the composition of the ruined ships. The results are troublesome. The hulls are alloyed with Iconian metals. This suggests that these were created with Iconian tech, perhaps even by Iconians. But why? Before we can speculate further, a massive reading indicates the presence of a fleet arriving in Fluidic Space.
Captain Simmons to Voyager. The Borg are here. We're taking heavy fire and need immediate assistance.
Okay, two things have happened at once here. Bringing the task force around, we set a course back to the USS Venture at the interplexing beacon. Navigating this suit feels like running in water. As to what we just witnessed, invading ships seemingly of an array of Alpha Quadrant species that were then obliterated by the Undine? It wasn't much of an invasion force, and from the wreckage we just found, it seems to have not been the first attempt either. So the purpose of the attacks and the fake fleet of starships can't be to wage war with the Undine. Could it be a false flag operation? We reach the source of the Venture's distress call and find a cluster of escape pods. We evacuate the survivors and find a familiar face among them. Dr. Cooper from the Research Center in Omicron Kappa contacts us.
I never should have come on this mission. I'm a scientist, not an explorer. Take me out of this awful place right now!
A scientist is an explorer. The mysteries of the universe are their ocean, and their intellect the stars by which they guide their ship named Curiosity. Now, tell me what happened before I come down there and slap you.
The Borg attacked and we had to abandon ship. We were floating here, waiting, and then Undine. They came out of nowhere, tore through us like tissue paper. We shouldn't have invaded their space. They're so strong, we're weak. Please take me out of here.
Did Captain Simmons make it off?
I don't know. It all happened so fast. She insisted on being the last one to leave the ship. I don't even know if she made it out alive. Now, can we leave?
No. We set a course for the next beacon, away from the false derelicts, keeping our eyes open for any more escape pods. Cooper seems rather shaken, clearly perturbed by the Undine's assault, claiming them to be too strong and for us to be weak. He didn't seem to be fazed by the Borg attack back on Omicron Kappa. He even volunteered to stay behind to secure the data and was still trying when we arrived. I guess the Undine are just too much for him. As for the rest of the Venture's crew, there's still no sign. As we pass more of the coral, we can spot signs of artificial constructions. And from the gloom, we see large structures like a cityscape made from the identifiable materials of the Borg Collective. This must be the beachhead that the Borg had established in Fluidic Space that we hear mention of in our last mission. A Unimatrix. There are even several Borg command ships lounging in positions near the structure.
The Borg presence is much larger than we anticipated. Nevertheless, our orders are to remove as much of it as possible. Voyager will follow your lead.
Is that a Borg Unimatrix? It's enormous!
I admit that it is an impressive structure.
Unimatrices are the giant command hubs of Borg activity, usually established in key locations, like transwarp conduits, where there are no celestial bodies to found on. On the Admiral's orders, we engage the Borg. There are plenty of targets to choose from, but if we work as a team, we can focus down the vessels before they have time to adapt. We find a likely looking sphere and unleash our weapons on it, hammering through its shields with the aid of a Klingon vessel. As a large cube succumbs to the combined fire of our squad, the Klingons' vessel fails and has to enact repairs, so we swoop in to cover them, engaging a second cube. We navigate through the wreckage, harder to do in these currents, to face down another, but find the IRW. Our Hale has done the work for us. We then move to join the IKS Klinzai as it squares off against the final cube, and we manage to shoot down a plasma torpedo heading straight for it.
The diamond is jamming our reflector arrays. We must destroy it before we can retreat.
Tarsi adds an addendum saying that long-range scans are picking up an incoming Undine fleet, likely being drawn by the commotion. This diamond usually indicates the presence of a Borg Queen, or at least a processor hub for the hive mind, and is heavily defended and is a powerful ship. Its attempts to mess with our navigational deflectors mean that we cannot reform the quantum singularity we need to escape this realm. The Borg are trying to keep us here. Our science officer also points out that the diamond will employ a feedback pulse at regular intervals to bounce back our energy weapons to us if we fire while it's active. Combined fire from our joint task force proves to be too much for the diamond, and despite heavy damage of several of our allies, we prevail.
Opening singularity now. I recommend an immediate withdrawal.
Rear shields failing.
And I recommend you don't fly through an exploding Borg diamond. But in all seriousness, we've harassed the Borg enough and seem to have drawn the attention of Species 8472, so we set a course away from the Unimatrix and back to a safe distance so Voyager can open our escape tunnel.
We need to report to Starfleet Command immediately. We thought that the Undine were responding to a Borg incursion into their space, but it now appears that the Iconians, or some entity posing as them, has created false Alpha and Beta Quadrant ships and sent them into Fluidic Space. Clearly, the Undine attacked us because they thought we attacked them first.
So yeah, we're being framed, and the Undine are too inexperienced with outside races to notice any difference. What's the good news?
There is some good news. The spread of the Borg nanovirus has halted, and thanks to the Doctor's research, we should be able to prevent future planets from being assimilated in this manner. The Borg will adapt in time, but we have also stopped them from transmitting the technique for Undine assimilation to the collective. It is possible they could learn how to do so again. We will need to remain vigilant.
Our efforts against the Borg are only ever about buying time. They are as tenacious in their endeavours as, well, the Federation.
The Borg in Fluidic Space were forced to retreat, and logic suggests it will be quite some time before they trouble the Undine again. The end of the Borg attacks in their home might stop the Undine advance into our space. But if the Iconians continued to trick Species 8472 with false incursions, they could decide to invade ours in retaliation.
So what happens now, Admiral?
Voyager will take Dr. Cooper and the other survivors back to Earth. I suggest that we all confer with our fleet commanders to determine the next course of action. We have not seen the last of the Undine.
We didn't suspect Iconian involvement. If we had, then perhaps we could have handled things differently. As Admiral Tuvok puts it, dealing with the Borg's incursions into Fluidic Space might buy us some gratitude with the Undine. but if the Iconians continue to implicate us and the other Alpha Beta Quadrant races, the Undine will likely continue to attack in what they feel is a justified defence. The problem is that the Undine have a tough time differentiating between beyond fluidic space species, and might not even believe us even if we could re-establish a dialogue. And then, even if we did, we're still at war with the Klingons. This may have been a joint operation, but we're far from resolved in our disputes. Sometimes it feels like we made such a mess of the galaxy, but now we're seeing increasing evidence that there are powers moving behind the scenes that are continuing to churn this maelstrom. We call in our mission report to Captain Martin, who shares the concerns of Tuvok and us. With the mission complete, we receive an anti-proton weapon of our choice, a transphasic torpedo launcher, and the usual grab bag of points. With all that said and done, we have completed the Borg Advance story arc, and we'll be moving on to the next one soon, and I hope you'll join me for that episode, as we continue to explore the ever-expanding narrative of Star Trek Online. Until then, thanks for watching. I've been Rick, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.